Welcome around the work stand.
Happy 2025.
Happy 2025.
Can you believe it's here already?
Absolutely not.
I know my entire life I've been saying that the year flew by, but legitimately 2024 feels like it was a blink of an eye.
Yeah. Yeah.
I made the mistake. I was with my family over the holidays, for better or for worse, and I said that I'm turning 25. I'm turning 25. I don't know why I said that. I'm turning 40 next year, and my sister was like, "Nope, you're turning 40 this year."
That's what sisters are for.
Yes, well, she's 8 years older than me, so
She earned it.
yes.
She's just happy you're in the club.
Yeah, I guess I'm the last of us. I'm the youngest.
Well, speaking of 2025, what about 2024, Ryan? How was it? What were the market conditions? It blinked by, but as it was blinking by, what did we see internally and what did you see externally?
You know, each month the story would have been different. I think that's the story of 2024 is that it was a roller coaster on our platform. It was a roller coaster for retailers. It was just impossible to identify like directional sales trends, from a super strong January to a really weak July, to a real, stronger than expected taper through the holidays. Just, it was all over the place. There were certainly bright spots in there, but I'm ready for the roller coaster to be over. Going into the year, I really thought that the industry had kind of found its bottom, and that just really wasn't the case. There's the story of the overall industry from PeopleForBikes. They put out that monthly report. We only have numbers through October, but total retail sales for bike shops was down 9% through October. So that was very discouraging. S&P Global, which is the firm that PeopleForBikes contracts with for their long-term forecasting, they were being a little bit more forward-looking through the end of 2024. They don't forecast the total bike market. Instead, they just focus on bike units. That isolates performance from the average price of bikes, inflation, that sort of thing. And they are saying that they expect a 7% decline in total bike unit sales by the end of the year. Unfortunately, I think 2024 was a pretty bad year for the industry as a whole.
Do we want to talk about more specifically about retailers on the Workstand platform?
I'd like to. It's a better story, and so I think I'd certainly like to. Yeah, and that plays into the overall trend happening right now that more and more consumers are buying online. Just yesterday, I was speaking with a group of sales reps from one of the bigger distributors in the industry, and we were looking at those long-term e-commerce market share trends over the last 25 years. And, that e-commerce market penetration has just continued to grow. It, retreated a bit post-COVID, but now it's come back to the, expected 1% increase year over year. And that's not going anywhere. And so that showed up in 2024 numbers for us. Our total platform was up 4% through October, just to get a comparison to the PeopleForBikes. But, the fourth quarter, did really well and it pulled back another percent and it was up 5% by the end of the year. So that's great news. We've talked about some of the pieces around what goes into that number before, and the results, largely driven by high performers who are heavy in Google shopping ads, that, people that have invested in expanding their market. They don't really feel constrained by, that 10, 20 miles around their store. And then bike sales, a ton of bikes sold online last year. A lot of that was discounted. So over half of the bikes sold online last year were at a discount, and the discounts averaged 27% off, so nearly 30% off.
Wow.
I saw some overall retail numbers, I think from Adobe, especially about the holiday season. And that discount percent really matched other high-end consumer goods. I think, bike retailers may say, the bike industry is particularly impacted by discounting, but that doesn't appear to be true. Now, real bright spot for bikes is those discounts led to consumers buying nicer products. And so the average selling price for bikes sold, was up 14%. So, that's, I guess, a key story of last year online is that discounts did pull customers up into higher spending, and they bought online, which is great for workstand customers because we just so happen to enable your ability to do that.
That part though was consistent. That we talked about that a few times. The pull forward of buying upscale product. Yeah, that was discounted, but it did change the mix a bit, didn't it?
You are absolutely right. We talked about, or I mentioned earlier, that really strong January, and you're totally right. That the strength of January was driven by a high volume of bike sales from major manufacturers at discount. And so that trend did absolutely persist. Hard to say how that carries over to next year. I'll maybe talk about that next. But there are big opportunities for dealers that, are putting their energy into marketing their bikes online. And obviously the priority is on your in-stock bikes. That's what you really want to move. But with Supplier Sync, you can market discounted product regardless of whether you stock it or not. When in a market where every dollar matters, I don't think you exclusively focus on what you own. I just think you try to close as many of those sales as possible because the demand's there, and I think you got to go where the demand's at.
Yeah, as an optimist and somebody that likes nice stuff, I'd like to see, does that have a persistent effect? In other words, do we see 2 or 3 years down the road that the fact that people took that chance and bought the nicer thing where they otherwise wouldn't have, does that get them to buy nicer things down the road? We may see that in average order values and things like that.
Yeah,
I think
just
that's a great
their
point.
investment, kind of their investment in the sport and the activity. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Suzie, is there an occurrence in your life as a cyclist where you've ever downgraded on your next bike? I didn't think so. Yeah. Yeah.
No, no, I've been very fortunate to have very nice bikes for a very long time, and I feel like there's no going back.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm the same way, and I think that's the story of most consumers. Once they get a taste of higher performance, they're not going to go back down.
For sure. Well, speaking of that, not going back, let's go forward. What are you seeing? What do you think's on the horizon for 2025 because we're already halfway through the first month of 2025.
I know. Can you believe it? I had to glance at the calendar. My gosh. I'm returning to a cautious optimism for this year. I talked to a lot of dealers in December to get a sense of what they were expecting for sales, and I was hearing largely that there was going to be, there were growth expectations. Anything from a very modest 3% to when I talked to those bigger advertisers, they were expecting north of 10%. And so I'm feeling generally positive about kind of what our clients see for themselves. If I look at last year's results as an indicator of what I might expect moving forward, I am very confident in the value we can deliver to our clients. So, very big year for online selling. We had 17 dealers last year sell over $1 million off of their Workstand website. Wow. And for the first time ever, we had one account go over 5 million, nearly reaching $7 million just on online sales. And so that is really showing me that for those who choose to get the most out of our platform, they could have a really big year next year. And of course, it's not just at the very top. About just over 10% of our dealers sold over 100,000 last year. So our ability to deliver is there, and I pay a lot of attention to what is Walmart anticipating, Home Depot, these big brick and mortar retailers. They're seeing higher growth rates for their online portion of their business than their brick and mortar. That's contributing to overall business growth. So I believe that if our clients leverage their website, there is going to be additional growth that will maybe help them inch from that 3% up to the 5%. So I'm optimistic there. The S&P forecast for over the course of the next 5 years is just shy of a 1% increase in bike unit sales moving forward. 2025 is harder to predict because there's a lot of macroeconomic changes that may be on the horizon. But I do think that we can see flat to slight growth in unit sales. And you pair that with that, rising average selling price. I think it was up about 3% last year. That alone is going to lead to dollar growth. And then, looking at overall, supplier and retailer inventories are getting back to an acceptable level. So I think that improves the situation, especially around discounting. So I think there's some health, waiting out there. Bigger unknowns around the aftermarket space. I think consumers are still really spreading their spending around. And much like in things like the grocery sector, in that area, consumers are being pulled into lower cost products. So that will have an unknown impact. Bright spots, of course, are service. That's gained about 2% over the last few years, and I think it'll continue that.
Got to take care of those nice bikes.
That's what yeah, absolutely. And of course, we've said it for years, but that's the most defensible part about, brick and mortar retail is the service department.
Yeah.
Yeah. Suzie, we were on a call earlier today with somebody outside of the industry entirely. And, she talked about her visits to the bike shop or, every couple of years, for the kids and then regular service. And, heck, I'll take that foot traffic.
Yeah. Before we, I think, kind of get into maybe looking forward to 2025, even though we're in 2025, like some action items or what retailers can do or what we see some of our top performers participating in order to see success. I just had a quick question of kind of going back to 2024 of, do we have any takeaways on the why sales were down, or maybe certain retailers were maybe underperforming, or maybe some of the, I think to help us kind of shape our kind of future actions.
So I hesitate to point at external factors as too much of a contributor, but the reality is that whereas consumer confidence remained high, discretionary spending was lessened, and spending was driving into consumers were spending on lower priced items. And so I do think that impacted consumers' ability or desire to buy discretionary items at higher prices. So I think the demand situation was a little rough. I'm no longer really worried about the impact of the used bike market on bike sales. PeopleForBikes is now reporting on used bike sales. It's not performing disproportionate to the overall market. And I think that the general assumption there is that it is a net positive because of that trade-up effect. Looking at the makeup of dealers and were they on the high performer end or the, or not, it still comes down to marketing. Is the website, is there an active plan around the website? And, anybody that was in that, 6 figures and above, those are dealers who, they are actively doing email marketing. They are actively advertising. And so I just sure hope that message is getting through to our customers. Now is the time to be thinking about what you're going to do in the spring. Marketing can feel like an unknown, but luckily you've got a website partner that has the answers. We've got an internal marketing agency. We have a 4-person digital ads team. The vast majority of those dealers doing 6 figures and above are paying us for Google advertising. And so we can just have, in a hands-on way, directly drive results.
That's a good point too. 4-person team. That team expanded during the year.
Yeah.
So, and not just because it sounded fun, because we've brought on a lot of extra clients in the last year and a half or so. Yeah. I think we're up to 140 or so that we work with.
Wow, that's more than I was anticipating, honestly. Yep. I knew it was over 100, but...
And that's a good point. So we clearly there's a message to see from the top performers. And one of the things I will hear is, well, they have a lot to invest. Well, don't let that be the thing that changes your attitude. The percentage increase is there for you to take. So even a modest investment in Google ads can have a substantial return relative to that investment. So yeah, you're not going to spend $1,000 a month and all of a sudden do $1 million in sales, but you're going to do a lot more than you were doing. And that could be the stepping stone to see, oh, well, I'm okay increasing that investment because it brought me X plus. So think of it that way. It's an incremental investment in the business for sales that you wouldn't otherwise have an opportunity at. And we know what will happen if we get folks in the store. The store staff is good at putting people on product and closing sales. This is another way to do that because it's not just the online sales those ads affect. Those people come to pick product up in the store. They see the ads and never touch them, but they know where the store is and they show up in the store. So they have a knock-on effect that is not insignificant.
Yeah. That, Google is now is every shop's front door, and the more present you can be there. I mean, just look at it the same way you used to view your street sign. That's you're making that impression. People know you're there. Now it's all on Google, and Mark, your point's great. I mean, like we have a plan for any budget and strategy. If you really just want to win that local service business and that's an area of growth, we're right there with you. We'll help you do it. We're always going to be talking about how can we enhance the strategy. That team, whether it's directly measurable or not, success is driven or is measured by increased revenue for our clients. And so if we can track that through Google Shopping ads, great. Or if it's anecdotal, somebody telling us that they've seen more foot traffic or they just sold a high-end bike because the consumer came in off the website. It doesn't matter, but that team's work is all about growth.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure probably the only Google Ads team operating in the bicycle space with a multi-time national champion.
That is true.
There's that.
Yeah. So those who don't know, Allison Powers, an icon in U.S. cycling, is on the ads team.
I still get starstruck when I know.
Allison. She's just delivering value left and right.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
Well, what else can retailers do to kind of start growing their businesses again in 2025?
Well,
is it all about Google?
Well, that's a big part of it, but I think it's this is a product-driven business, and so in those phone calls that I made at the end of last year, once we talked about what the growth number was, the next question was, where's that growth going to come from? And so many of the clients I spoke with had an idea, but many others did not. They were pinning a number based on their expectations and what they thought the market could do. But the people I believe are going to be more likely to succeed are the ones who could identify this is what's going to contribute most to that growth. And so I would say identify the categories where the growth is going to come from. So like examples, just focusing on bikes, mid-priced aluminum road bikes seem to be a really strong performer right now. Class 2 electric lifestyle bikes, and Class 3 electric road and mountain bikes. These are areas that across the industry are performing incredibly well. And so, build a stocking strategy around what's growing in your market, even if it doesn't match the national trends. And then market to stimulate the demand further. Because stocking is great. Workstand will automate the display on your website. If you have Google local listings, it'll get you in Google. But do more than that. Reach out. Make sure that you're participating in that demand that is out there more actively. I think the other thing to do is really focus on local market share. Every local market has seen major disruption in the last several years, either with consolidation, supplier purchases, store closings. So market share is very uncertain, and you don't have to be bound by that 5 to 10 mile radius of your store. I mean, the entire market area that is accessible to you, is available through Google. And so get on Google. Suzie, you knew it was coming. Search local shopping. Not everybody in your market is going to do it. Remember, only 1 in 5 bike shops work with Workstand. Of those, still less than half, I'm gonna speculate, are doing anything active on Google. So those of you who choose to do something automatically have a leg up. In a market that is flat, increasing market share is going to lead to growth. So focus on market share. And then lastly, lean heavily on selling bikes online in your local market. I know everybody listening, your preference is to have a customer walk through the door and buy a bike from you. That's why you got into business. That's going to be what you believe firmly is the best experience for the consumer. But the reality is more and more consumers are buying online. That shift is happening. Shift along with them. It's not a fundamental change in your business. Almost all of these bikes are for click and collect. The customer's still coming in the door. It's just a change in the order of operations. Historically, customer walks in, you talk to them about the bike, you sell them the bike. Now they're buying the bike, they still come in. Now you have those conversations, the upsell opportunity. But those high dollar sales are going to increase your website ROI directly, make you feel more comfortable about the website investment, additional investment in advertising. But like Mark said earlier, it's going to drive floor traffic too. And in a time when, foot traffic is so hard to come by, marketing your bikes online is going to be one key thing you can do to drive traffic.
I agree. I agree. Floor traffic's great, but the front door is moved from where it was traditionally.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah. Outstanding. Well, it was in a lot of ways an exciting and very quick year last year, and it's gotten off to a good start this year. So let's we'll test Ryan. We'll have these throughout the year as we did last year, and we'll be able to look back and see which way it's going. You always are good about remaining agile and not saying let's not. You always say let's not make offer on decisions. Let's really be flexible because some things fall in the middle. So I think that's good advice as we move into the new year.
Agreed. I want to remind everybody that I'm available to talk strategy, to unpack into the industry numbers if you do want to reach out to me. But if you're looking to build a growth strategy, there is nobody better than Mark Still. So reach out to Mark. All he does is help our clients get the most out of the system, connect them with the most relevant marketing services. So anything I'm talking about related to high performers, Mark is going to be your quarterback connecting with the right people.
Right on. And it's fun. It's a fun conversation. And there's if it's just a conversation, that's okay. We want to make sure you have the information you need to grow your business. And if that's all it is, a conversation, great. If it moves into more and we get you in the agency and we're doing the work for you, that's great too.
Yeah. And make those calls now. I mean, late March, early April, you're going to be so busy.
Yeah.
Now, wouldn't you like to be even busier? Well, have those calls with Mark now and get your program in place, because otherwise, I just don't want any of our customers to their success to be driven by the whims of the market. Take control of your performance and talk to Mark.
Right on.
Yeah, and that's really our plan for on with our podcast and some other content that we'll be putting out, is providing more tools and resources and guidance around how to grow your business, how to market your business. So we're putting out some fresh topics every month. And then, of course, just like you said, if you want to have some personalized conversations, Mark's going to be your go-to.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you both for having me on and for, another successful year of putting out valuable content. I love listening. I love participating. And hopefully you're having fun with it, because it's good work.
Thanks. It is fun. And you're not on with us. You're part of this. This is fun. And I like these because, we're fortunate that we get to talk to you more than most folks. But we still don't get to hear everything. So it's extremely valuable, I think, internally to hear what you're seeing. And thanks for continuing to participate with us here on this and everything else that you do to help us keep moving forward.
Do you think we should move on to the 3-hour podcast format, Mark?
No. As the person that has to go back and edit it, 20 minutes or so is plenty.
I say plenty of unhelpful, stupid things in the 20 minutes. I can't imagine what 3 hours would be like.
Well, look, we can try it.
I am thinking about. I'm not thinking about. I am going to get a new bike this year, so that could be a podcast on its own.
Not a single person that's ever met you or listened to this podcast or works with you is at all surprised by that.
And you shouldn't be. But I do have a 1 in 1 out strategy
policy. I think.
Policy. Right now. So it will be my cross country bike is going bye-bye, and A new one will be replacing it.
I can't wait to hear what you get.
I'm excited. Well, I guess until I can just share more personal, unhelpful stories about myself, I guess I'll see you around the work stand.
Bye all.